Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to After the Game with Todd Leary, of course, coming to you from Yogi's here in Bloomington as Indiana takes on Michigan State in East Lansing, losing 64-58 tonight. And I think that, Todd, that pretty much puts to bed any thought of Indiana going to the NCAA tournament. They were already first four out. This is going to push them further down the road. Even if they beat Purdue, that would get them back a little bit. But this was an ugly game, man.
Yeah. Well, first off, from that perspective, I mean, it's going to take a major run in the Big Ten tournament, and I mean a get to the last day kind of run. But then let's flip-flop right back to your other comment of the game. Like, the referees are, in my opinion, a lot responsible. Like, these are two not very good offensive teams to begin with. So there's a lot of that involved. But the referees didn't allow any possibility of this game being or having any continuity or flow or anything to it. This was a miserably officiated game. When I saw the officials and I saw that there was basically no leader. There was no Bo Borowski. There was DJ Carstensen, or I think that's his name or whatever. Like, when you saw that none of those leading officials were in this game, you could tell the Big Ten scheduled the refs based on what they thought this game was going to be like. And I'm not blaming win or a loss for either team. I'm saying it was an ugly game, and a lot of it had to do with the officiating.
Yeah, and we've seen that a lot this year.
But this was worse than normal.
It was. Officiating is getting worse. We've talked about that a little bit. It's gotten a lot younger. The guys have gotten younger, but the instant replay, I don't know how much that has played into it, but the block charge call is just driving me insane. But
tonight's lack of consistency in what was a foul. I mean, there was some possessions where there was a ton of contact and they didn't call anything. And then there was a ridiculous amount of possessions where there were just guys kind of battling for position and they were calling fouls. And once you start doing that, you kind of have to continue it. And it was going one end of the floor to the other, having to continue to call those because they started it that way. And, somebody needed – if the officials ever had their own timeouts, tonight was the night they needed to use one and call a timeout and go regroup and get each other to understand, hey, guys, look, we're way too involved in this basketball game. We're not giving these guys a chance to even get anything going.
Aaron Henry did a lot. Unfortunately, it wasn't for Indiana, as a lot of people would like to have seen him wearing an Indiana jersey, but he certainly has done a lot at Michigan State and continues to do so. He's a problem. He's always a problem. But I think he plays Indiana. He's got a little extra chip on his shoulder a little bit maybe.
Yeah, I mean, doesn't Tom Izzo, I mean, am I the only person that realizes or that thinks that he just makes it a point to come and pluck a kid out of Indiana every couple of years? So he's always kind of got one on his roster that always has a little bit of
a good one too.
You
don't get bad ones either.
Right. But you know what? Like go back to Chris Hill from Lawrence North, and the kid from HSE that still plays in the NBA. I keep spacing his name right now. But I mean, they're not guys who are 5 stars. They're not guys that are insanely heavily recruited, but they're guys that end up being 4-year guys that are really, really good, if not great, college players by the time they're done.
This game, like we said, was ugly. The shooting was atrocious on both sides. Let's don't act like
it was
just a horribly. Indiana shot 33% for the game on 18 of 55 shooting. They 18 shots is all they hit. Michigan State was not a lot better at 38%, only hitting 20 of 53. But from the 3-point behind, Indiana was just terrible. They're actually 2 of 21, I think, because Tennessee put up one at the end, unless it wasn't a 3. But 2 of 20, 10% on the night, just absolutely atrocious. Free throws, they're okay. They get to the line almost 30 times, 29 times. Michigan State was at the free throw line 30 times. Talked about the officiating. There's 60 damn free throws. Why are we shooting 60 free throws in a game? It's terrible.
The officials are just way too involved. I mean, There shouldn't be a game where there's hardly 30 free throws shot between the teams combined, let alone 60. But I mean, this game, I thought there was some things in this game. The comment a moment ago from someone that said, this game makes me sad. Like, there were some things that happened in this game that even with losses and not playing well and that, I really thought Indiana as a whole, between the coaches and the players, we're all kind of still on the same page. I think today is really the first time in maybe all year and maybe in Archie's entire tenure at Indiana that I've felt like there's a disconnect between the players and the coaches, because, there was a lot of wolfing going on between Trace and coming out of the game and things like that at a time when it couldn't happen. Trace showed more frustration tonight than what I've seen. And I'll tell you, this I think, Jim, is a comment that, I kept hearing it being said. And I think Robbie Hummel, as Indiana people, we shouldn't love him, but I think he does a fantastic job of doing the games. I really think he's great at it. But I disagreed completely with the statement he kept making. He kept saying Indiana has got to get Trace involved. And I honestly believe that is the absolute wrong way to go about it. Trace is not even like, Williams from Purdue or Kofi Coburn or any of the other big guys, Hutchinson or whatever. He's not a guy you want to go feed in the post. Like, Trace needs to get himself involved in the game, whether it's offensive rebounding or whether it's a cut where he gets an easy basket or a foul on a guy. Indiana working the ball around to throw it inside to Trace. So Indiana getting Trace involved generally doesn't end up in that many baskets. I've said this how many times on our show. Race Thompson's a better inside scorer than Trace is. Now, that doesn't mean he's a better player, but he's a better, if I'm going to run an offensive play for a guy set and throw it into a guy, I'd rather throw it to Race than Trace. And so I disagree with the comment of Indiana needs to get Trace involved. Trace needs to get Trace involved. And I thought tonight he did a poor job. I thought he looked frustrated when he took him out for fouls, and then he came back in. He took 2 really bad shots. And then, I'll almost guarantee you this is why he came out of the game, the left-handed tip dunk by the kid from Michigan State. I mean, that was just a simple fact of Trace not blocking out. Like, he didn't block him out. He tried to use his athletic ability and jump and get the ball, and the ball bounced the wrong direction, and he got tip dunked on. And I'm sure when the timeout happened, that was the topic of conversation, and Trace didn't handle it very well.
I sent a tweet out earlier that Race Thompson is probably the only dog on that team, because he comes to play every game. He's not the best player. He's not the most athletic, but he comes to play every game, and you can count on him, and you really can. I mean, he's out there playing with a busted face. He got hit in it during the damn game. I can tell how bad it hurt. Geez, just watching him. He's right out there.
It made my eyes water just seeing
my
it happen.
God.
But I think the easy way I sum up Race is he's the most consistent effort guy that Indiana has. Like, you never question whether he's going to play hard or not. And I hate to say that because I'm not saying that I don't think everyone else on the team doesn't play hard. I think they intend to play hard. I think they try to play hard. I don't think it's ever questioned the toughness and all that. I guess I should say it that way. It's not that he plays hard. You never question Race's toughness. I do think there's a lot of times Race plays too slow. I think he needs to speed himself up. I think the team needs to speed him up a little bit. He gets to walking up and down the court a little bit, and I don't love that. But it's not. You never question his toughness, and this game made me sad too. I agree with that statement. It made me sad because I saw a disconnect between the coaches and the players tonight that I don't think existed before this.
Well, last week there was an instance up in Rutgers with Jerome Hunter, a similar type of deal where he went, I don't know if it was sent to the locker room. I know there was another time where Christian Lander was greatly frustrated and Parker Stewart went to console him. So it's starting to wear on these guys, and this game tonight, like we talked about how ugly it is, but it's a game that when you lose this game, it really just punches you right in the gut. I mean, getting beat by Michigan or Rutgers or anybody else in the Big Ten is different than Michigan State is like Indiana. but better, a little bit better, I guess, but just struggling to find something, and they found it, and Indiana didn't.
I mean, I hate to keep putting most of it, and I'm not going to call it blame, but most of the attention on the coaching staff. But I mean, both of these teams were, I don't even know that they were parallel, middle of January. I think Indiana was above Michigan State. I think Michigan State was at the bottom of the barrel.
They've been making a run here of late.
And what happened? Like, how do you get out of that? As players, there's things you can do or whatever. But I think we all kind of thought by the end of the year, Tom Izzo, it might be too late for him at that point, and it might be too late for him. They get blasted by Michigan these last two games. And losing the first round of the Big Ten tournament. They still might not make the tournament, but I think that they've definitely turned themselves around. And I don't think anyone would argue with the fact of from the middle of January to now, this team, Michigan State team, has gotten a lot better. From the middle of January to now, has Indiana gotten a lot better? No. I don't think so. Definitely not consistently.
Christian Lander has. He got 22 minutes tonight, 7 points, 3 of 5 shooting. Was only 0 for 1 from behind the 3-point line, 1 of 2 at the free throw line, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, and 1 personal foul. I mean, that's a pretty damn good night for Christian Lander.
I mean, I don't think that surprises any of us. I think that, with 22 minutes a night, I think you'll probably see that line be even better than that night in and night out. I think we'll see him continue to get better. And I mean, you're encouraged by that, but I mean, I'll tell you, as much as I can be encouraged by that, and I am, because I've wanted to see him play more, all year long. But I'm super discouraged by what I saw out of the players tonight. Like this team is in struggle mode. Like they're going to be having a lot of conversations between the coaches and the players that are not going to be related to how do we get better. They're going to be related to how do we get reconnected, because right now there's a major disconnect.
And I know a lot of everybody, and I've been bad about it probably in the past, but everybody would love for us to talk about Archie and all that stuff, but it's actually pointless right now. We've got another game, a regular season game to go with Purdue on Saturday, and then potentially the NIT tournament in Texas. Does Indiana goes to the NIT if they get a bid, right?
Don't you have to be over 500?
Used to have to be. I think they've changed that rule now. You no longer have to be. The NIT. The NIT. Do you know who the NIT could have in it? Indiana, Michigan State, Duke, Kentucky, if they wanted to. You could have those teams in the freaking NIT. All suck, but you could have them in there.
I mean, I'm with you. I get it. I understand what you're saying. I don't know. I'll be perfectly honest with you, Jim. I don't know that. I think there's a lot of situations where you could say the extra games and the added games would give this team a chance to, because they're young, because they're a young team, it could give the younger guys more of a chance to play and all that. But I'll be honest with you, I'm not sure playing in the NIT would be good for this team. I think unless they turn it around, which is hard to do, but it's possible, unless they turn it around and go on a run in the Big Ten tournament, I think ending this season about as quick as possible is probably the best thing they can do. And I can't believe I'm saying that, but I am.
Well, when I hear people say turn it around, I'm like, well, what are they going to turn around? I mean, what are they going to do different? That gets back into that same conversation where what are they going to turn around that they haven't turned around in 4 years?
I mean, you could have said that about Michigan State. I mean, where were they going to go?
Well, Michigan State's got Tom Izzo starting with, so I probably we were expecting Michigan State to actually come on. Had actually talked about surprising that they hadn't done so yet, because they normally are a late season team, but not usually this late. But they did.
Well, I mean, look, let's look at it from the perspective of, okay, in mid-January, if you would have been able to tell us that we lost both games to Michigan State ending the year, knowing how Indiana was playing and how Michigan State was playing, I think we would have all said no, that they'll at least win the home game. And I mean, what, Indiana lead by 15 points in that home game? And I think that's probably kind of the beginning of the serious decline. I mean, I think the season kind of had a little bit of a downward trend throughout the season. I think they kind of fell off of a pretty big hill in that first Michigan State game. And, not being able to come back and beat a Michigan State team. If you had given us the stat line of Michigan State prior to the game starting, knowing that that's what they were going to do, and you said we couldn't beat that, I would have said our stats were going to have to be horrendous, and they are.
They are absolutely horrendous.
They are horrendous.
You're listening to After the Game with Todd Leary. Of course, we're coming to you live from Yogi's here in Bloomington. Thanks a lot to everybody here at Yogi's and Finney Hospitality Group, Nathan Finney and Chris Martin and Kelly and all those guys. When you're out and about, make sure you stop in. Here we get this one first. Indiana has to be the worst last 4-minute team in the country. Man, they do seem to not do what they need to do whenever they need to do it. I don't know if that's the easiest way to say that. But.
You know what? I'm definitely not going to disagree with the statement, but I'm also going to say, you know what? We might be the worst first 4 minutes of a game team in the country. We might be the worst final 4 minutes of the first half. We might be the worst first 4 minutes of the second half team in the country. I mean, in the Big Ten for sure. We're in the top of all of those categories.
Where does Indiana go from here?
Luke's trying to throw up a softball and hope I lose my shit here.
They go to practice tomorrow is where they go in preparation for.
You talking about practice?
Yeah. In preparing for a team that is loaded. I mean, man, and Purdue wants to get off to beating Indiana to head into the Big Ten tournament. Man, you talk about a perfect setup for them. They're a team we haven't talked about a lot in the Big Ten here of late. We talked a lot about Iowa and Illinois and Michigan, but Purdue has been one of those teams that's quietly fallen off a little bit. I don't say fallen off, but we just haven't talked about them a lot.
It's because there's nothing exciting about them. You know what? They're hard-nosed. They play hard. They're tough. They don't have anybody that you talk about nationally. You go outside the Big Ten and ask people to name 3 players off of Purdue's team, and they couldn't even come close to doing it. Like, no chance. And so, this is Purdue is overachieving. Indiana's underachieving. I mean, I'm an Indiana fan. That's very difficult for me to say without vomiting at the same time. But Purdue is way higher up in the Big Ten than I thought that they would be, and then I think most people thought they would be, except for anyone that works within the program. And Indiana's way farther down than I think all of us expected them to be.
This is a stat that definitely escaped me. Indiana's only 13 games from being undefeated in this season. So there's that positive if you're looking for it.
Yeah,
just kidding.
That's true. That's true.
Just trying
to make me positive in this.
Yes, I'm trying to keep away from the obvious, the elephant in the room. So I've been trying to do that really hard this week on the show. On this, I've been because there's no point in it really, because none of us know. I don't know. I have no idea what Scott Dolson. I don't know if Scott Dolson knows what he's going to do right now. Does Scott Dolson know what he's going to do at this moment? I don't know that anybody that I don't know that Scott knows. I don't know that decision has been made.
There's a bunch of factors that go into it. I mean, what happens at other schools, what happens with, here's the only fact that will happen. After the season's over, he'll sit down. Archie and Scott Dolson will sit down. And they will talk about the direction of where things are going and plan on going and all that. I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what is a scary scenario right now, Jim. And none of us can predict this because none of us know. It's never happened before. But the open transfer rule within the NCAA.
I thank God it's not approved yet.
A team like Indiana is on the verge of being really hurt by a rule like that.
Yeah, thank God it hasn't passed yet, but it could definitely have that kind of an effect. But we go forward now. They have to play Purdue on Saturday. We all know the story. Archie hasn't beaten Purdue. Indiana hasn't beaten Purdue in however many tries is now. Is it 8? I can't remember. 7 or 8. No, I can't remember. But either way, it's not good. It's not good for the program. But regardless of that, it's a tough game for Indiana that they have to play. Probably, I mean, I don't expect them to win that game, but it's not like it's impossible. But it's on the road.
Well, yeah, I mean, you know what? Here's the way how many times do I keep making this analogy? And hey, Derek, I appreciate the comment there. I will just say for the record, I have reached out more than just this year to offer free help. The problem with that is, and I'm gonna bail the coaching staff out on this a little bit, is the NCAA doesn't allow it. It's not you can't just bring anyone in. Not that it's me, not that it's whomever. You can't just bring in anyone in.
Even a former player can't just
come
in.
Nope. If it would be an NCAA violation if I just ran into them at the Hyper building and worked with them. Like
now, over the summer or something like that, when they're out on their own, they can do whatever the hell they want. Like Armond Franklin did all summer.
They can, yes, but I still can't be a part. The program can't bring me in to help them at that point. Why the NCAA would care about how much schooling or help these guys could get to become better players makes no sense to me whatsoever. But there's a lot of things they do that don't make any sense to me.
No doubt about that.
But hang on. One of the things I was going to get to was I say this game in and game out, but I mean, you talk about this game with Purdue over the weekend. You know, if you line them up player for player, you know, like man for man, 1 through 5, and then even go to the bench. You know, I mean, is Purdue more talented than Indiana? Would you trade a lot of players on the roster? Probably not.
Just a couple.
Maybe. I mean, I don't even know which ones you would.
I know which one I would. Trade 4. It's more about trading 4 than trading away.
Yeah. I mean, I hear you.
Just a piece, not just a piece. Just, you know, there's
but
definitely.
I mean, I'll just say, like, Indiana is not out talented in this game on Friday,
right.
On Saturday. If they don't win, then it's because of toughness and execution. That's as plain and simple as I can put it.
Yeah, and Pete went to school with Pete. Not sharp again. Didn't like we said. Race was the guy. Race was the dog. I don't know if it was what it is. If he's just frustrated with the season, frustrated with the guys pounding on him. You know, he faces a lot of double teams. I mean, he's the focal point, but. It's a frustrating deal, but you got to deal with it, man. You're not at the end of the season yet.
And look, I'm going to say this, and I'm going to stick with this no matter what. I mean, someone's going to have to prove me wrong when it comes to this, but I certainly hope, and I don't have any proof that this was the case, but I think there's been times when Trace has been upset and frustrated with the fact that he hasn't gotten the ball, and that's on Trace. That's not everyone else's fault for not getting him the ball. Like first of all, he's not a post play. He's not a great, I'm going to run an offense, throw it into the post, and hope he gets a basket kind of player. He is a great physical talent. I think he's a terrific kid. I hope I can't state that enough. I can't let anyone know how strongly I feel that he's a great kid, and I'm glad he's at Indiana. But do I think that he is a great post player? No, I don't. I don't even think he's a very good one. I think he's a great player. I think he's got a lot of great assets to him. But as far as when I hear announcers say they've got to get Trace involved, I think they're completely wrong. Trace has to get Trace involved.
That's right, Linda. She said he shouldn't have thrown a hissy fit. That's exactly what he did.
That is exactly right.
Yeah.
I mean, a hissy fit. I mean, you know what? He might need to get sent up the tunnel.
You know what? You would, but man, unfortunately, he's a guy you can't have out too long. But all of those guys could use that, and unfortunately, they're not getting. They haven't gotten it, and it's. You know, been watching some old tapes, not for any other rate, just because they've been coming up, and I was like, my God, you never know who was going to be on the bench and who wasn't. I mean, it didn't matter because if you boom, but it just seems like I don't know if it's a lack of confidence. Because we've seen these freshmen play better when they've been allowed to play. Of course, they just weren't in the beginning of the year, which I think has hurt them they would be further along, of course, you would think. But now when you have 2 open scholarships, which that's on Archie, you should have filled those scholarships. So that hurts you not having those bodies on the bench to come in as well. Then you get the couple of injuries, and this all starts to add up at the end of the season, and they're getting thinner right now for sure.
Look, everybody deals with the injury bug. Indiana's had its share of injuries, but I would not classify Indiana as one of the teams that season has gone in the tank because of players that are not available. Now,
right.
if you want to say, players that aren't on the team, like filling those 2 scholarships, I mean, who knows what the possibilities have been that. And you know what? Hopefully we all get surprised. And there's some unbelievable, Mike Smith from Michigan type transfers that Indiana has come in. That would be incredible. And then we would see why those were held on to. But right now you can definitely say there's been some instances where it's hurt them. And we'll hear a lot about Armond Franklin not being available in this game. I agree with it. He would definitely help. There is no doubt. Armond in a lot of our games has been the best player on the floor. But Michigan State played terrible tonight. Like, they played horrible, and you couldn't beat them. And I mean, if you're ever going to have a year to go to Michigan State and beat them, like, this is as bad a stat line as you can possibly hope for that Michigan State would have. And here's the thing, Jim. I mean, let's just try to not be insane idiots here. Did you expect to win this game?
Nope.
No.
Well, I mean,
Did you expect to win last Saturday against Michigan?
Absolutely
no.
not.
Yeah. Do you expect to win against Purdue on Saturday?
Absolutely not.
No. So why do I continue to bang my head against the wall, thinking that it's going to be different every week? I shouldn't expect to win.
And so that's why it is difficult to not. There was a comment and I skipped over from Tyler, but I'll go ahead and throw it up. That's why it's hard to skip this. I mean, Scott Dolson is going to be forced to address this because, all right, in my mind, there's no doubt Archie Miller is just not a good enough coach at this moment in time to coach this team or coach in this league. That's just my opinion. But the fact that they've gone from 6th to 8th to 10th to probably 11th or 12th this year, the program is going down with no signs of getting better. Now you've got player problems. There's just zero to show it going any other direction. And if you have him here next year, you're basically just saying, yeah, we've given up on this season and whatever. But you have to have a plan in place if they are to do something. You got to be able to get to the guy that you want, or what's the point? So it's a difficult situation. It's just not that easy that they can dump him because he needs to go. Well, of course he does, but you got to have somebody to replace him. And there's no one on his staff that could even be an interim coach. So that's an issue. So I don't know where they would go. So there are so many questions that's why it's virtually pointless to dig too deep into it.
Yeah, I mean, I would be interested to hear the reaction, because the statement of saying the relationship between all of the coaches, it's not just the head coach, but the head coach and all of the assistants and all of the players, and that relationship together just isn't working. Like, I don't think I'm being overly it's tough on people. I think this is what, like I learned in my playing days, that the most important thing, and you can, even though it really didn't happen, like, you can live with the loss as long as you feel like you prepared to the best of your absolute ability. You watched as much film as you could watch. You knew everybody's tendencies. You knew what the game plan was. You knew how to accomplish it. So you prepared as well as you could possibly prepare. Then you can live with the outcome. And honestly, like, I believe if Indiana had prepared 4 years ago when they hired Archie Miller, if they had prepared at that point and said, if 4 years from now we have a record of 12-13 and we have a losing record in the Big Ten for the second or third or fourth consecutive year, I think we all agree that everybody walks away from this situation and agrees it's just time to go a different way. And that, to me, is where the problem is. I mean, we didn't prepare 4 years ago. We wouldn't be in this position. I would love to ask the question, which you would never get the right answer to, or the honest answer to. But I'd love to ask the question of Archie Miller. If someone had said to you 4 years ago, hey, if in year 4 we still haven't won one NCAA tournament game, let alone played in one, and we finished in the bottom 5 of the Big Ten every year, don't you disagree you'd walk away for free? I mean, I think as a competitor, you'd say, well, yeah, if we finish in that position, yeah, I would gladly walk away. Like, I'd walk away because I'd be embarrassed. But that's where we're at. And I'm just saying, like, I don't think Archie expected to be we know Archie didn't expect to be at this point. I would just like to I would like to know what, as a fan, I can look forward to. What can I look forward to happening that's going to be different? Otherwise, based on the definition, I'm insane. Because if I expect a different result, then I'm the one that's clinically insane. Because the same stuff's happening over and over again. It's not getting a different result.
I agree 1,000%. I don't know how that, as just anybody with common sense, after you've made the money that he's made, that how do you not embarrassingly just say, yeah, this is not working here, and I'm going to cut you guys a break. You've paid me well. Take the other $5 million or whatever, and still walk out of here with $20 million, whatever. It's just. But it's not going to happen that way. He's not going to give it up.
If I was in his position, look, he's a competitive guy. The one thing that not the one thing, there's a bunch of things that I really think are positives of Archie. But one of them that stands the biggest to me is he is competitive. I think he thinks he can fight his way out of it. I want him to fight his way out of it. I want Archie to be I don't want to have a new coach. I hope 5 years from now we're sitting there saying, can you believe we thought about firing this guy 4 years ago or 5 years ago? But all I'm asking as a fan is I want to know what's developing. I don't want it to be some freaking secret. I'm so tired of Indiana being so close to the vest and never releasing any information, and we never tell what's going on, or we don't know what direction they're going, or who they're hiring, what coaches they're hiring as assistants. Like, I don't need it to be a secret. Right? You've put yourself in a position you can't afford for it to be a secret. As a fan, I want to know. And if you don't tell me, and this is what I can expect for next year, then you know what? You don't read the negativity that I put out there, because I don't know what to say that's positive. I'd love for them to tell me what to look forward to.
Yeah, I definitely would love for someone, if he is not removed after this season, I definitely would love for someone to tell me how in the world, when you look at every single number there is, and there is not a number that is going up in his favor. Everything is going down with a bullet. Recruiting is not, just, you can go on and on, but the product is the worst, and apathy is the greatest killer of that. Here's the one thing that I disagree with, I think, the entire fan base on, is I don't think that the recruiting is falling off, because we've signed 5 stars. We've signed guys rated in the top 100. Well, only under Archie it's falling off.
And it's not worked out. No, it's not. We've signed these guys.
Well,
and it's not worked out.
Early, but you started
Go
losing
sign
them.
me some Tom Coverdales. Okay? Go sign me some Dane Fifes.
I agree with you.
Go sign me some Marshall Stricklands.
But I don't think that Archie would get any more out of those guys than he does out of the 5 stars. I mean, from what we've seen, player development-wise, Rob Finney is no different than he is as a freshman. You talk about Trace Jackson Davis.
Let's look at it this way.
He can use his right hand.
Let's look at it this way. Let's look at it this way. How do you look at Jordan Geronimo right now? Do you think he's probably played a little bit better than what we expected out of him? He's a better player than maybe what we expected out of him? I remember you specifically saying over and over again, we're his only Division I offer that he had. and he's doesn't look out of place out there on the floor at all. He makes
getting minutes.
Good
getting
plays.
Minutes has sure helped him.
Okay, so we look at him because of where he was rated as he's having an above what our expectation level year. Christian Lander, 5-star, rated in the top 25 in the nation. Our expectations of him, what would you say your expectations of him were? I would say he's playing below what we had thought. I'd say he's playing below what we thought we were going to get out of him.
And that's not fair to him, too, somewhat. But yes, I agree with you. You're right.
I'm not saying whether I'm not saying right. I'm saying in the time that he is on the floor, he's not playing as well as what we thought we would get out of him. He's a top 25. He's a top 25 player in the nation, Jim. Like, you don't those guys you expect to be one and dones.
Well, he was in that class. We got to remember he moved up in class, which moves him down.
Still stayed at 25. Still stayed in the top 25. He was at like 12 and then moved to 25, moving up a class.
Yeah,
correct. Believe me, I don't agree with any of the rankings, so I look at them to see how.
I know how you love the rankings.
Yeah, I know. I look at them to see how stupid they are, and when I look at it, and this is not an argument against Christian Lander. You know all year long, watch our show. I say every game, I think he should start. I think he should be the guy that we roll with. But I'm also saying, like, as a fan base, our expectation of him was super high because of how highly he's ranked. And those, like, I don't think our recruiting's falling off if we don't sign a bunch of top 100 guys. I want to sign a bunch of guys that nobody's ever heard of that go out there and play hard and knock down shots. And 4 years from now, they're still wearing an Indiana uniform. That's who I want to. So I'm not worried about the recruiting. That's the one thing I'm not worried
I'm not worried about it with the right coach here. Indiana.
I'm not worried about it with Archie Miller.
Well, we can definitely agree to disagree on that one.
Why? Hold on a minute. Hang on a minute.
Because
why?
I think
because they lost the two kids to Purdue.
No, because I think players get worse under Archie Miller. I think they do not develop, and they either stay flatline or they possibly get worse.
But that's not recruiting. That's player development. That's not recruiting.
Well, right, but
I'm happy with Anthony Leal. I'm happy with Trey Galloway. I'm happy with Jordan Geronimo.
Right.
I'm happy with Rob Finney. I'm happy with these guys that came in.
I don't think it's going to stay that way, is my point. If he stays here, I don't think it's going to stay that way, is all I was saying. But I know I agree with you on everything you're saying other than that. And I left this comment about Jamal up because it was kind of going what you're talking about earlier with Trace Jackson. You know, we talk about his shot, not developing his shot, but here's something else to work on that just hasn't developed. And this is a guy who a lot of people are talking about going to the next level. And, man, we sure talk about things he should be working on for somebody so close to going to the next level.
I mean, honestly, Jim, like I think Armond Franklin. Maybe somebody will think I'm crazy if I say that. I think Race Thompson has a better chance of getting drafted in the first round of the NBA draft this year than Trace does. He's not getting drafted. So here's the way you got to look at it. If you're him and you're coming back to school, is it going to be Indiana? And I think that there's a lot bigger chance that that's a no. And I don't know him from Adam, so please don't anyone think I have inside knowledge on anything. I hope I could not be farther from the truth. I hope I'm so wrong. But if you look at what Indiana has right now and the direction that you and I are talking about, if someone can go to him and explain to him, here's the upper trend, here's our plan for how we're going to get better and why we're going to make the NCAA tournament next year, then I think he'll stay. But otherwise, when they open that thing up and they let everybody transfer wherever they want to go transfer, which they're going to do, he's going to leave. In Todd's opinion.
I don't know, man. You were so always more right. I can't see him. Well, I can, and that's it. But see, that's another issue. That of another reason that Scott Dolson has got to look at here.
Well, that to me is the reason why I think something would need to happen sooner rather than later to give. But I mean, you're not going to, and I'm not saying Archie should be fired right now because that doesn't do you any good. Because then who in the world who are you going to go hire? You can't go hire another coach. He's not leaving his other team right now, especially if they're going to make the NCAA tournament, which I would hope that'd be somebody we'd be hiring. But so there's no positivity in doing that. But if you've got to give whatever coach has that opportunity, if you ever did make that move, you've got to give that guy as much time as possible to save the current players.
They need a big trip. How about that? I just got to watch.
He wanted to throw something at me.
Yeah, no, not at you. I want to throw. He wants to throw stuff. I hear you, man. No, where is it? He says, "Todd, I love you. I want to throw stuff."
I know. I'm just kidding.
But they need a big trip.
Hey, Brock, we need to break some stuff. Let's get together and break some stuff.
There you go. I just got to watch that. That was pretty damn interesting, and I haven't talked about it on the show yet on the Daily Show, but I will. But you just missed out on that a couple of years, man. Did you miss out? But that was a pretty.
Hey, I'm old enough as it is. I don't need to add another 5. That was 5 years before I got there. I don't need to add that to it.
Hey, here's something now I'm looking at. Indiana, instead of playing in the damn
Luke, I've never, in all my years, how have I never put that NIT together?
Are you serious?
I've never put that together.
That's because you played in the damn NCAA tournament all the time. You didn't have to worry about it.
Good. Not in the tournament.
Yeah.
I like it.
Move to Dallas. From New York to Dallas because Texas is going to open everything. It'll allow fans. You'll be able to have full fans if you want. Indiana's only potential postseason play is definitely going to be in the NIT.
Not true. They could make a serious run in the Big Ten tournament.
No,
so that's a possibility. Let's not say their only chance, but it's slim.
That's like a donkey winning the Kentucky Derby.
Slim chance. Anything could happen in Kentucky. Hey, donkeys win the Kentucky Derby every year.
That would be like a donkey winning the Kentucky Derby, man.
It's in Kentucky.
Yeah, that's just it's going to wrap up. Indiana has got to find something. But all these problems that they're having, that's the scariest thing. The plays is bad enough.
But you can't say you're going to wrap it up and then open up a can of worms.
No. I meant wrap up that part of it. That the players, they've got serious now you have player issues to add to all this.
Yeah,
I don't think that you guys ever really had that, did you? I mean, because you guys had enforcers.
We had Lawrence transfer right off the bat. I mean, Chris Lawson transferred after a year. I mean, everything wasn't roses, believe me. And look, you get to a situation where it's not for everybody. That doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't make you a bad player. It doesn't make you not a tough guy. It doesn't make you not mentally tough. It just means that there's certain situations that that are not for everybody, and that doesn't make anybody a bad kid under any circumstances. I don't think Justin Smith's a bad kid because he left Indiana. I mean, I think he sought out what was the best situation for him, and I don't think too many people would argue with him right now.
Well, he's going to play in the NCAA tournament, so
yeah. And hey Jim, that's my point with Trace Jackson Davis.
That's his only option.
How do you look at that? I mean, you look at if he wants to guarantee himself.
Get in there and
if he wants to guarantee himself to play in the NCAA tournament next year, guarantee himself. I mean, I'd be calling up Gonzaga. I'd be calling up somebody is going to make the tournament.
Well, he knows it's not going to happen here, but it keeps taking.
He doesn't know it's not going to happen here, but he's got a decent head start on understanding. He knows closer than we do. So it'd be a heck of a great sign if he stayed. But I mean, I'm not trying to make things worse than what they are. I'm saying straight up, if anyone doesn't think that should be in the thought process, or that he would be a bad person for looking out for himself in that regard, I think they'd be being a selfish fan.
The NIT also cut down to 16 teams this year, so they've cut that in half. Not that any of that matters. I just no one is going to be excited about playing in that thing, man. But I wonder.
This statement gets shot down a little bit because of how badly Michigan got beat tonight. But I mean, rather than have the NCAA tournament, I mean, I'd rather just watch a 7-game series between Gonzaga and Michigan. And just give whoever wins 4 out of 7 the.
What about Baylor?
I hate to say it.
All right, I'm telling you, we're putting this bet right now. I'm putting two Big Ten teams and 2 Big 12 teams in the Final Four.
Have you watched them?
Baylor
in the last couple of games, and look, nobody's a bigger Baylor fan than me. Pre-COVID shutdown time for them, but they look like a bunch of 45-year-old men out there playing right now. They are. Jesse, I took my medicine tonight early, so I'm even keeled tonight. Plus, I didn't expect to win, so I'm managing my expectations, which is a crappy place to be as a fan.
Scott, that's probably about right. I would agree. That's probably that's probably an 8.
No,
that's probably 8.
It'd be
7 or 8,
4.5 or 5.
You think?
Yeah. I wouldn't bet it either way, but it'll probably be 4.5 or 5. I'm telling you, Purdue's just not. They're not on paper. They're just not that talented.
I know the answer to this. No, Todd has not seen a worse shooting team, because no one has ever seen a worse shooting team than this one.
Nope. Hey, Jim, I said it before we played any Big Ten games, that if Indiana will not win more than 2 Big Ten games, that they don't make more than 4 3-pointers. And look, we're already last in the league in made 3-pointers per game. So, I don't know why it surprises us when they go for 2 for 20, because that's what this team is. And Rob, who made our 2 tonight? Rob? Didn't Rob the only one that made 2 3-pointers tonight?
I think so.
He's one of the most inconsistent 3-point shooters we have. So we could have gone 0 for 20.
Yeah, he was 2 of 8.
We could have gone 0 for 20.
Durham was 0 for 3. Finney was 2 for 8. Hunter was 0 for 4. Leal was 0 for 2. Lander, Geronimo, and Galloway all 0 for 1.
I mean, why would we have expected to win? Why do we think we were even in the game? Like, we were so lucky to even have a chance with 8 minutes to go. Like,
couldn't tell you, man, but it's always I love doing these. It's fun. After the game with Todd Leary, live from Yogi's, is always a blast. No matter what, win, lose, or draw, we always win, and because we get to talk to you guys and come here and hang out. And don't forget, if you're out and about, stop in, whether it's Yogi's or Smokeworks or Social Cantina or the Tap. Man, I had some stuff from Smokeworks the other night. It was good.
Well, I will tell you, obviously, I'm not at Yogi's tonight, but I can assure you I was at Social Cantina earlier today.
And you're not getting any food. I'm not bringing it to you.
I already had it.
Thanks a lot, of course, to everybody at the Finney Hospitality Group, Nathan Finney, Chris Martin, Kelly here, Boogie behind the bar, keeping everything rolling, man. It couldn't happen without everybody here. Thanks to you guys. We'll be back. I'll be back on Monday, of course, for the show, and then we'll be.
You're not doing the show tomorrow. You're not doing the show tomorrow. Tomorrow's only Wednesday.
You did that to me again last week. I'm so not used to these weeknight games. It throws me so daggone off that I don't even have a days in my head anymore. But back on Wednesday tomorrow, and then we're back on Wednesday to do the Purdue after the game.
We're back on Saturday.
Saturday. What did I say?
Wednesday. It's good.
Wednesday. Oh, man.
Hey,
it's been a long day. And this is water, man. This is all I'm drinking, water.
Well, I'm blaming the officiating. I don't care. This late night, that game was a half hour longer than it should have been based on officiating.
Man, thanks, everybody. And make sure you tune in tomorrow for Indiana Sports Beat. For Todd Leary, the star of the show, of course, I'm Jim Coyle. You guys have a great night. Continue to wear your mask. Do something nice for somebody. And until tomorrow, I'll see you on the radio.